I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. At my son's wife's baby shower, I noticed something strange about the ultrasound photo on display. The date showed conception in November, exactly when Trevor and Olivia were supposedly trying to get pregnant. But that was also the weekend my husband Lucas insisted I fly to Colombia for a real estate conference while he stayed home sick. My hands started shaking as I did the math. That couldn't be right. Could it? 3 weeks later, at Olivia's 12-week ultrasound appointment, the doctor pulled me aside with a look I'll never forget. "Mrs. Bennett," he whispered, "I can't give you details because of privacy laws, but as a family member, I'm advising you to request an independent DNA test. Something about the lineage isn't right. I'm Linda Bennett. I'm 55 years old. I built an $18.5 million real estate empire in Charleston, South Carolina from the ground up. And I had no idea that the two people sitting in my dining room 3 nights a week, my husband and my daughter-in-law, were slowly poisoning me while planning to steal everything I'd worked for. This is the story of how I almost died trusting the wrong people, and how I made sure they'd never hurt anyone again." The chandelier in my dining room cast warm light across the mahogany table my late husband Diane and I had restored together 20 years ago. It was a Thursday evening in late August, humid enough that the air conditioning struggled to keep up, but I'd insisted on having everyone over for dinner anyway. Family dinners were important to me. After losing Diane to cancer 6 years ago, after 2 years of wandering through this big house like a ghost, I'd rebuilt something precious, a family around this table. Lucas sat at the other end, 40 years old and still handsome in that easy way that had caught my attention at a charity auction 5 years ago. He was pouring wine into everyone's glasses, playing the attentive host. My son Trevor, 32, and the image of his late father with those serious brown eyes, sat to my right, with his wife Olivia across from him. "More potatoes, anyone?" I asked, passing the bowl. My hands felt heavy, clumsy. I'd been so tired lately. "I'll take some, Mom, thanks." Trevor smiled at me, that genuine smile that still reminded me of the little boy who used to help me measure ingredients for cookies. He'd grown into such a capable man, VP of Bennett Properties, for 3 years now. I was so proud of him. Olivia declined with a wave of her hand. "No thank you, Linda. I'm watching my figure." She patted her flat stomach with a little laugh. At 30, she was beautiful in that polished way some women achieve, highlighted hair that looked expensive, designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill used to when I was her age, perfect manicure. She'd been a therapist, she said, when Trevor met her at a hospital fundraiser 3 years ago. Now she worked in client relations at Bennett Properties. "How's the Mount Pleasant development coming along?" Lucas asked Trevor, swirling his wine. "I saw the permits finally came through." "Groundbreaking in June," Trevor said, brightening up the way he always did when talking about work. "It's going to be our biggest project yet. 85 residential units, mixed commercial space on the ground floor. If we do this right, it could expand our portfolio by another 3 million. I should have been listening more carefully. Should have noticed how Lucas and Olivia both looked at each other when Trevor mentioned $3 million. Just a flicker, a half-second of eye contact that meant something. But I was dealing with another headache, the kind that had been plaguing me for weeks, now pulsing behind my eyes like a drum. "You okay, Mom?" Trevor asked, concern creasing his forehead. "You look pale." "I'm fine, sweetheart." I forced a smile and reached for my water glass. My hand trembled slightly. When had that started? "Just tired. It's been a long week at the office." "You've been tired a lot lately," Lucas said. His voice was gentle, carrying everything a concerned husband should sound like. He pulled a small amber bottle from his jacket pocket and shook out 2 large capsules. "Your vitamins, honey. You forgot them this morning again." I took them from his palm. They looked like the same vitamins I'd been taking for 3 months now, big horse pills that Lucas had ordered special from some wellness company online. "These are supposed to help with energy and joint health," he'd explained when they first arrived. "My age, I need to take care of you." The capsules had a faintly bitter taste when they hit my tongue, but I swallowed them down with water. Vitamins often tasted bad. "Speaking of health," Olivia said brightly, setting down her fork with a delicate clink. Her eyes were shining in a way I'd learned to recognize over the past 3 years she had news. "Lucas, Trevor, Linda, I have something exciting to tell you all." Trevor reached over and took her hand, squeezing it. "Should we?" "Yes, I can't wait anymore." Olivia practically bounced in her seat. "We're pregnant 10 weeks along. We just got the confirmation from Dr. Rutherford yesterday." For a moment, the world felt perfect. My son was going to be a father. I was going to be a grandmother. This was what I'd dreamed about during those dark years after Diane died, family continuing growing life going on. Oh, sweetheart. I pushed back from the table and went to hug them both. Trevor stood to embrace me, and I felt tears pricking my eyes. This is wonderful news. I'm so happy for you both. Lucas came around to shake Trevor's hand and kiss Olivia's cheek. Congratulations, you two. This calls for champagne. Well, sparkling cider for you, Liv. I should have noticed how Lucas's hand lingered on Olivia's shoulder when he hugged her. Should have seen how she leaned into him just a fraction too long, how her fingers brushed his arm as he stepped away. But I was too busy being happy. Too busy imagining holding my grandchild, too busy, ignoring the way the room tilted slightly when I moved too fast. When are you due? I asked, sitting back down carefully. Late March, early April, Olivia said. She glanced at Lucas again, that flicker of eye contact. Why did she keep looking at him instead of Trevor? We're so excited. Trevor's going to be an amazing father. The best! Trevor said, his voice thick with emotion. He'd always wanted children. We talked about it often. And Mom, you're going to spoil this kid rotten, aren't you? Absolutely, I laughed. But the headache was getting worse. The edges of my vision felt fuzzy. I'm already planning the nursery furniture shopping trip. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of excitement and planning. Olivia talked about baby names and nursery colors. Trevor calculated financial adjustments for parental leave. Lucas kept my wine glass filled too. Filled, I thought, at one point, but then dismissed it. He was just being celebratory. I didn't notice Lucas and Olivia's phones both buzzing at the same time, or how they each glanced at their screens and then at each other. I didn't see Olivia slip her phone face down on the table without reading the message. I didn't register that Lucas suggested the Mount Pleasant development site as a potential location for a quick inspection tomorrow afternoon when Trevor would be in a zoning meeting across town. I was too busy swallowing down another vitamin with water, too busy feeling the nausea rise in my throat, too busy wondering why my joints ached like I'd aged 20 years in 3 months. When they left that night, Olivia hugged me tight. Thank you for dinner, Linda. You're going to be such a wonderful grandmother. I hugged her back, breathing in her expensive perfume. I'm so happy for you both, sweetie. After I closed the door, I had to lean against it for a moment. The hallway spun. Lucas came up behind me, his hand on my lower back. You need to rest, Lynn. You're working too hard. You're probably right. I let him guide me toward the stairs. Each step felt like climbing a mountain. Maybe I should see Dr. Mitchell again. Good idea. I'll make the appointment for you tomorrow. Lucas's voice was soothing, caring. The voice of a man who loved his wife and wanted to take care of her. Not the voice of a man who was slowly killing her. Dr. Andrew Mitchell had been my physician for 15 years, ever since I'd moved to Charleston. He was in his early 60s, now gray-haired and comfortable, the kind of doctor who still made house calls for his longtime patients. I trusted him. Linda, your symptoms are classic stress presentation, he said, reviewing my chart on his computer screen. You're 55, running an $18 million company you've recently remarried after significant loss. Your body is telling you to slow down. But the nausea, I pressed, wrapping my cardigan tighter around myself. The examination room felt too cold. Everything felt too cold lately. And the joint pain. My hands shake sometimes, Andrew. That's not just stress. He turned to face me, removing his reading glasses. I'm ordering a complete blood panel just to be safe. But Linda, I'd bet my medical license this comes back normal. Your blood pressure's slightly elevated, but that's it. He scribbled on his prescription pad. I'm writing you something for anxiety if you need it. And I want you to seriously consider taking a vacation. When's the last time you took a real break? I tried to remember. Diane and I had gone to Kiowa Island the spring before he got sick. That was 7 years ago now. I'll think about it, I said, taking the prescription. The paper felt heavy in my hand. Think hard, Dr. Mitchell said gently. You've been through a lot. Grief has a way of catching up with us in unexpected ways. I wanted to believe him, wanted to think this exhaustion was just my body processing loss, processing change. But something in my gut, the same instinct that had built a multi-million-dollar business by trusting my hunches, was screaming that something was wrong. Lucas picked me up from the appointment, all concerned attentiveness. What did he say? Stress. He thinks it's stress. I buckled my seatbelt, noticed my hand trembling on the latch. He's running blood tests. Well, that's good, right? Ruling things out. Lucas pulled out of the parking lot, one hand finding mine across the console. His hand was warm, steady. Mine felt cold and weak. You know what? Let's go to that new place on King Street for lunch. My treat. You deserve something nice. We ate at a trendy bistro where the prices were ridiculous and the portions tiny. Lucas ordered wine even though it was noon on a Tuesday. Come on, one glass won't hurt. Doctor's orders to relax, right? I sipped the Chardonnay. It tasted strange metallic. Maybe my taste buds were off. Another symptom to add to the list. I love you, Lucas said, reaching across the table to touch my cheek. I hate seeing you feel bad. Maybe we should book that trip to Florida. Get some sun, get away from work for a while. Maybe, I said. But I was thinking about the Mount Pleasant development, about the quarterly reports due next month, about the new client portfolio Olivia was supposedly developing. After this big project closes. Lucas's expression shifted for just a microsecond. Was that frustration, disappointment, before smoothing back into concern? You work too hard, Lynn. What's the point of having all this money if you run yourself into the ground? It was a fair question. One I'd asked myself many times in the 2 years after Diane died, when work was the only thing that kept me from drowning in grief. But something about the way Lucas said it, having all this money, made my stomach tighten. We drove home. Lucas gave me another vitamin with lunch, and I took it without question. Like I'd done every day for 3 months. Like I'd keep doing until the day I almost died. 3 days later, I was in my office at Bennett Properties reviewing quarterly financials when I noticed something odd. Our company credit card statements showed a charge from November 14th, Wentworth Mansion Hotel, $847, coded as Client Entertainment, Harper Prospect Dinner. I frowned at my computer screen, trying to place the client. Harper. We'd courted a family with that name in Atlanta a few years back for a potential partnership, but it never materialized. Had we circled back to them, I opened my client database and searched. No active prospects named Harper. No inactive ones since 2022. The charge was approved by Olivia Martinez. She'd taken over client relations coordination 6 months ago. Trevor's suggestion because she had such people skills. The merchant code showed lodging, not restaurant. So this wasn't dinner at the Wentworth's restaurant. This was a room. I sat back in my chair, leather creaking. The headache was starting again, that relentless pressure behind my eyes. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe there was a Harper inquiry I'd forgotten about. Maybe the room charge was a mistake actually meant for something else. But I pulled up the calendar for November 14th anyway. November 14th to 16, 2024. Columbia, South Carolina. Commercial Real Estate Development Summit. I'd given a keynote speech on adaptive reuse projects. I'd been gone 3 full days, 2 nights. I cross-referenced Trevor's calendar from back then. He kept meticulous digital records. One of the things that made him such a good VP. November 14th, 16, he'd noted Olivia, Atlanta trip with college friends. So Trevor had been in Charleston alone while I was in Columbia, and Olivia was supposedly in Atlanta. Except Olivia had approved an $847 charge at a Charleston hotel the same night. November 14th, 6:23 p.m. My hand hovered over the phone. I should call Trevor. Ask him about it. There had to be a reasonable explanation. Instead, I opened our building's keycard access logs. As owner, I had administrator access to everything. Trevor's keycard out at 3:47 p.m. on November 14th. No entry recorded again until 9:15 a.m. on November 16th. Where had my son been for 2 full days? The nausea hit me in a wave, and I barely made it to my private bathroom before I was sick. When I was finished, I slumped against the tile wall, cool against my feverish skin. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. But I couldn't quite see the shape of it yet. Couldn't make the pieces fit into a picture that made sense. Trevor and Olivia were trying for a baby. They loved each other. Olivia wouldn't. My phone buzzed. Text from Lucas. Don't forget your vitamin tonight. Love you. I stared at that text for a long moment. Then I pulled up my personal credit card statements from November. I'd told Lucas I was having a spa weekend with my Clemson girlfriends that weekend he'd asked about. Let me check what I'd actually done. November 14th to 16. No charges. No spa, no hotel, no restaurants, nothing. I'd been home, alone, for 3 days. Why had I told Lucas I was gone? I sat on the bathroom floor trying to remember. The memories felt fuzzy, indistinct, like looking through dirty glass. Had Lucas asked me to go somewhere? Had there been a reason I needed to stay home? The fluorescent light hummed above me. My stomach churned. And for the first time, I wondered if the vitamins Lucas gave me every day were really vitamins at all. That night, I did something I'd never done before. When Lucas handed me my vitamin with dinner, we were eating takeout Thai food in front of the TV, just the two of us. I pretended to swallow it. Tucked it under my tongue instead, the way I'd seen people do in movies. "There you go," Lucas said, patting my knee. "Don't forget your medication, honey." Medication, not vitamins. He'd said medication. "Thanks, sweetheart," I said around the bitter capsule in my mouth. It was dissolving slightly, the taste horrible. "I'm going to use the bathroom." In the bathroom, I spit the capsule into my hand and stared at it. Large gelatin coating turning sticky from my saliva. Inside, I could see powder white, maybe slightly yellow. Was that what vitamins looked like inside? I'd never thought to check. I wrapped it in tissue and put it in my makeup bag, buried under old lipsticks I never wore. Then I washed my face, brushed my teeth 3 times to get rid of the bitter taste, and went back out to pretend everything was normal. Lucas had queued up a movie on Netflix, some romantic comedy I'd mentioned wanting to see. He had his arm around me, was playing with my hair the way he knew I liked. Everything about the moment should have felt safe, comfortable, loving. Instead, I kept thinking about that capsule in my makeup bag. Kept thinking about November 14th. Kept thinking about the look Olivia and Lucas had exchanged at dinner 3 weeks ago. "You're quiet tonight," Lucas said. "Feeling okay?" "Just tired still," I said. "Sorry. I know I'm not much fun lately." "Hey." He turned my face toward his gentle fingers on my chin. "You don't have to be fun. You just have to be you. I love you, Linda. I'm here for whatever you need." He kissed me softly, and I kissed him back, tasting the lie underneath every tender gesture. When he went to take a shower before bed, I checked his phone. I'd never done that before in our 5 years of marriage. Never had a reason to, but his passcode was easy my birthday, and the phone unlocked on the first try. Text messages, nothing suspicious. Work emails, a few exchanges with the contractor on the Mount Pleasant project, messages to Trevor about a zoning variance. Then I checked his photos. Had to scroll back through weeks of ordinary pictures, photos of us at dinner, sunset photos from our deck screenshots of news articles, until I found one from May 18th. Timestamp 2:47 p.m. A photo of the Mount Pleasant development site, our empty lot, dusty and barren construction permits posted on the chain-link fence. Except in the background, barely visible, were 2 figures. I pinched to zoom in. Lucas and Olivia, close together. Too close. Her hand on his arm. His head bent toward hers, intimate, familiar. My hand started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I heard the shower shut off. Quickly I exited photos, made sure everything looked untouched, put the phone back exactly where he'd left it on the nightstand. When Lucas came out, towel around his waist, wet hair, making him look younger, I was already in bed, eyes closed, pretending to sleep. "Good night, beautiful," he whispered, kissing my forehead. I kept my breathing steady, even while my mind raced in the darkness. Tomorrow, I would call Robert Fleming, my attorney for 30 years, the man who'd helped Diane and me set up our wills and trusts, who'd guided me through the legal maze after Diane's death. Robert had known me long enough to tell when something was wrong. Tomorrow, I would start looking for answers. Tonight, I just had to survive another night in bed next to a man I no longer knew. The Medical University of South Carolina's Women's Health Center was bright and cheerful, all soft blues and encouraging posters about pregnancy nutrition. I'd insisted on coming to Olivia's 12-week ultrasound. "I'm going to be a grandmother I want to be part of every moment," I'd said with such genuine excitement that no one could refuse. Now I sat in the waiting room with Trevor, while Olivia was in the bathroom for the 5th time that morning. Morning sickness, though it seemed to hit her at all hours. "Mom, thanks for being here," Trevor said, squeezing my hand. His palms were slightly sweaty, nervous dad energy. "This is such a big day." "I wouldn't miss it, sweetheart." I squeezed back, looking at my son's face. The son I'd carried, birthed, raised, loved for 32 years. The son who had no idea his wife was carrying another man's child. Because I was almost certain now. The math was too clear. November 14th conception date for a late March due date. November 14th, the Wentworth Hotel charge. November 14th, the day I'd been in Columbia while Lucas stayed home sick, and Olivia was supposedly in Atlanta. I'd spent the last 4 days barely sleeping, cross-referencing dates and credit card charges and calendar entries. Every piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion, but I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. Olivia came back from the bathroom, pale but smiling. "Sorry, this baby does not like my bladder having any personal space." We all laughed that easy family laugh. I wondered how much longer we'd be able to do that. A nurse called us back Olivia Martinez. The ultrasound room was dim-lit mostly by the glow of the equipment. The technician, a young woman with kind eyes, helped Olivia onto the table and squeezed cold gel onto her still small belly. At 12 weeks, there wasn't much of a bump yet, just a slight roundness that could be mistaken for a large meal. "Okay, let's see this little one," the technician said, moving the transducer wand across Olivia's stomach. The screen flickered to life, showing the grainy black and white image that would resolve into my grandchild. Except probably not my grandchild. Probably my husband's child. "There's the head," the technician said, pointing. "And the heartbeat, see that flutter nice and strong. 140 beats per minute, right on target." Trevor's eyes filled with tears. "That's our baby. Beautiful, healthy development for 12 weeks, the technician continued. "Everything looks perfect." She took several measurements, clicked and typed professional and efficient. But then she paused. Her eyes had flicked to a second monitor, not the ultrasound screen, but a computer display showing lab results. Something in her expression shifted just for a second. "Excuse me," she said, standing abruptly. "I need to get Dr. Rutherford. Just standard protocol. Nothing to worry about." She left too quickly. That wasn't nothing to worry about body language. That was something's wrong body language. Olivia laughed nervously. "That's never a good sign in medical shows, is it?" "I'm sure everything's fine," Trevor said, but his hand found hers and gripped tight. I said nothing, just waited. Felt my heart hammering against my ribs. 5 minutes later, Dr. James Rutherford entered. I knew him slightly. He'd delivered half of Charleston's babies over his 30-year career, had a reputation for calm competence. Mid-50s, silver-haired, the kind of doctor who made you feel safe. He looked at the ultrasound screen, then at the lab monitor, then at us. His face was carefully neutral in that way doctors learn when they have to deliver difficult news. "Mrs. Martinez, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Bennett." He nodded to each of us. "I have good news. The baby is perfectly healthy. Strong heartbeat, proper development. Everything measuring right on track for 12 weeks. Trevor exhaled. "Oh, thank God." When the tech left like that. "However," Dr. Rutherford interrupted gently, "I do need to speak with Mrs. Bennett Sr. privately for a moment. Just some administrative matters regarding the prenatal screening panel." Trevor frowned. "Administrative matters? Can't that wait? We're kind of in the middle of—" "It'll just take a minute." Rutherford's tone was gentle but absolute. He looked at me. "Mrs. Bennett." I stood, legs unsteady. Olivia was watching me with those sharp eyes. Did she know? Had she been waiting for this moment? "I'll be right back," I told Trevor. Dr. Rutherford led me down the hallway to a small consultation room. The door clicked shut behind us, sealing us in with whatever truth he was about to tell me. Dr. Rutherford didn't sit down. Neither did I. We stood there, two middle-aged people about to have a conversation that would detonate my world. "Mrs. Bennett, I want to be very clear about what I'm telling you, and why." His voice was low, careful. "HIPAA laws prevent me from sharing specific patient information without consent. What I'm about to say is my personal advice to you as a concerned physician who's seen this situation before." "Just tell me," I said. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. He took a breath. "As part of our standard prenatal care, we run comprehensive screening panels. One component is basic genetic markers that help us understand the baby's potential health risks. These markers can also inadvertently reveal paternity information." My stomach dropped. "And the markers I'm seeing don't match the expected paternal contribution for Trevor Bennett. However, they do match markers we have on file from your husband's recent physical at MUSC. Lucas Bennett had blood work done 3 months ago as part of our executive wellness program." The room tilted. I grabbed the back of the chair for support. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying you should request an independent DNA test." Dr. Rutherford's eyes held something like carefully controlled anger. "I'm saying the genetic markers indicate a 99.94% probability that Lucas Bennett is the biological father of the child Olivia Martinez is carrying. For a moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The pieces I'd been trying to arrange in my mind for the past week suddenly slammed together into a complete picture, and it was so much worse than I'd imagined. My husband, my son's wife, a baby. Mrs. Bennett, I have to ask, are you safe at home? Dr. Rutherford's hand was on my shoulder, steadying. If you need resources, domestic support services, I can... No. The word came out sharp. I straightened, pulling air into my lungs. No, I'm fine. I need a minute. Take your time. He pulled a business card from his pocket and wrote something on the back. This is a private lab. Dr. Sarah Kim. She does confidential DNA testing. You'll need a sample from the fetus. We can do that non-invasively through a maternal blood test, since the fetal DNA is in Olivia's bloodstream. And you'll need a sample from Trevor for comparison. I took the card with numb fingers. Thank you. Mrs. Bennett. He waited until I looked at him. Whatever you're dealing with, please be careful. And please consider talking to the police. Not yet, I said, because already my mind was moving past shock, past hurt, into the calculating space where I'd built a business empire. Evidence. I needed evidence first. Proof that couldn't be denied or explained away. Dr. Rutherford, when we go back in there, you tell them it's a healthy baby boy, and everything is perfect. Nothing else. Can you do that? He studied my face for a long moment. Against my better judgment, yes. Thank you, I said again. We walked back to the ultrasound room. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Trevor looked up anxiously when we entered. Everything okay, Mom? I smiled, amazing how you could smile when your world was ending. Everything's fine, honey. Just some boring paperwork stuff about insurance. I looked at Dr. Rutherford. Isn't that right, Doctor? That's correct. He turned to Olivia and Trevor, his professional mask firmly in place. Congratulations, you two. You're having a healthy baby boy. Olivia's face lit up. Trevor laughed, incredulous and joyful. They hugged each other while I stood there watching my son celebrate a child that wasn't his, a betrayal he couldn't even imagine. Dr. Rutherford printed photos. We left the hospital with ultrasound pictures my grandson clutched in Trevor's proud hands. In the parking lot, Trevor said, Mom, you want to come over for lunch? We could start looking at nursery furniture online. Not today, sweetie. I have to get back to the office. Another lie. I was getting good at those. But soon, okay, we'll make a whole day of it. I hugged them both goodbye, held on just a fraction too long to Trevor, my boy, my baby, who had no idea how much danger he was in. Then I got in my car, drove exactly 3 blocks, pulled into a CVS parking lot, and called the one person I trusted absolutely. Robert Fleming's office, his secretary answered. Margaret, it's Linda Bennett. I need to see Robert today. Emergency. Tell him it's life or death. Because it was. I understood that now. This wasn't just about adultery or betrayal. The vitamin capsule hidden in my makeup bag at home, the one I'd finally have tested. The constant illness. The memory gaps. The way Lucas kept pushing me to update my life insurance to add him as the sole beneficiary on my accounts. My husband wasn't just having an affair with my daughter-in-law. My husband was trying to kill me. Robert Fleming had been my attorney since Diane and I started Bennett Properties 30 years ago. He'd drawn up our partnership agreements. Our wills helped us navigate the legal complexities of building a business from scratch. When Diane died, Robert was the one who held my hand through probate, who made sure I understood every document I signed. He was 62 now, gray-haired and distinguished in his navy suit, but his eyes were still sharp as ever. Those eyes studied me across his mahogany desk with increasing concern as I laid out everything. The hotel charges, the calendar discrepancies, the ultrasound revelation, the vitamin capsule I'd brought in a Ziploc bag. Jesus Christ, Linda. He said it quietly, but with feeling. Robert never swore. The fact that he was swearing now told me how bad this was. You think Lucas is poisoning you? I think I need to find out what's in these vitamins. I pushed the Ziploc bag across the desk. And I think I need help. Professional help. Robert picked up his phone. Margaret, cancel my afternoon, and get Hunter Blake on the line. He hung up and looked at me. Hunter was Charleston PD Major Crimes for 20 years. Retired 5 years ago and went private. If there's evidence to find, he'll find it. And Linda, he leaned forward. He's discreet. This won't end up in the society pages. I don't care about the society pages, Robert. I care about staying alive. And I care about protecting Trevor. If they're planning, I had to stop swallow against the lump in my throat. If they're planning to kill me, what's to stop them from going after Trevor next to Olivia, as the widow would inherit his share of Bennett properties? One step at a time, Robert said firmly. First we document everything. Then we figure out the scope of what we're dealing with. Then we decide on a course of action. His phone buzzed. Mr. Blake is available in an hour. His office on Broad Street. Tell him I'll be there, I said. Hunter Blake's office was above a rare bookstore on Broad Street, accessible only by a narrow staircase that creaked under my feet. The door at the top had his name in simple gold letters. Blake Investigations. The man who answered my knock looked exactly like someone who'd spent 20 years dealing with Charleston's ugliest secrets. Late 40s, weathered face eyes that missed nothing. He wore jeans and a button-down shirt with no tie, competent hands that suggested he could still handle himself if needed. Mrs. Bennett, Robert called ahead. His handshake was firm, professional. Please sit. His office was spare desk, 2 chairs, filing cabinets, a wall of framed commendations from his police days. No wedding ring, no personal photos. A man who kept his distance from the mess he investigated. I sat, started talking. Told him everything I'd told Robert, plus more the photo on Lucas's phone, the pattern of my illness getting worse, the way Olivia and Lucas seemed to communicate in glances and timing. Hunter took notes in efficient shorthand, occasionally asking questions that showed he was already thinking 3 steps ahead. Access, he said when I finished. I'll need everything. Financial records, schedules, phone bills if you can get them without tipping them off. Corporate accounts, personal accounts, credit cards. You'll have it all, I said. Good. He tapped his pen against the notepad. Now I need to ask you something personal. How long have you been feeling sick? The question caught me off guard. What may? You're pale. You've rubbed your temple twice since you sat down. Your hands are shaking. How long? 3 months. Maybe longer. I looked down at my trembling hands. My doctor said stress. Your doctor's wrong. Hunter's voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory. Mrs. Bennett, I need to add a medical investigation to the scope. Full background check on Lucas Bennett, every place he's lived, every name he's used. Financial forensics on Olivia Martinez. And I want a complete toxicology workup on whatever you've been ingesting. You think, but I couldn't finish the sentence. I think I don't believe in coincidences. He slid a contract across the desk. 15,000 retainer. I work fast, I work quiet, and I work thorough. Nobody knows I'm looking unless you want them to know. I signed without hesitation. What was $15,000 when my life was on the line? One more thing, Hunter said as I stood to leave. Stop taking anything Lucas gives you. Not vitamins, not tea, not food he prepares, nothing. Can you do that without making him suspicious? I thought about it. I can fake taking the vitamins. Spit them out later. Do that. And Mrs. Bennett. He walked me to the door. Watch your back. If Lucas is poisoning you, he's done this before. People don't wake up one morning and decide to slowly kill their spouse. This is practiced, which means you're not his first victim. Those words followed me down the narrow staircase and out into the bright Charleston afternoon. Tourists walked past laughing, taking photos. Couples held hands. Life went on normal and mundane while I was discovering that my life had been a lie for 5 years. My phone buzzed. Text from Lucas, where are you getting worried? Want me to pick up dinner? I typed back. Meeting with contractor. Home soon. Love you. My first real lie to him. It wouldn't be my last. That night was one of the hardest of my life. Lucas had picked up Thai food, my favorite, and we ate at the kitchen island like we had 100 times before. He told me about his day, asked about mine. I lied smoothly about contractor issues and permit delays. When he handed me my vitamin, I took it with a smile. Thanks, honey. Don't forget. He kissed my temple. Your health is the most important thing. The capsule dissolved slowly under my tongue as I excused myself to get water. In the bathroom, I spit it into my hand, wrapped it in toilet paper, flushed the toilet to cover any sound, and added it to my growing collection hidden in an old jewelry box under my bathroom sink. Evidence. I was collecting evidence. When I came back out, Lucas had poured us both wine. I was thinking, he said, handing me a glass. We should take that Florida trip. Get away for a week or 2. You've been working so hard. Maybe after the Mount Pleasant project closes, I said, taking the smallest sip possible of wine that might be drugged. Trevor's counting on me for the zoning hearings. Was it my imagination or did Lucas's smile tighten? Trevor's a grown man, Lynn. He can handle things. Besides, Olivia helps him with everything now. That's true. She's been wonderful. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. We watched TV. Lucas dozed off around 9, his head on my shoulder. I stayed very still looking at this man I'd shared my bed with for 5 years. His face was peaceful in sleep, almost boyish. I'd loved that face, trusted that face. Had any of it been real? My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. Text from Hunter. Can you come to office tomorrow 10 a.m.? Found something. Come alone. I typed back one-handed, careful not to wake Lucas. I'll be there. What had he found in less than 8 hours? My stomach knotted with dread and anticipation. Lucas stirred, opened his eyes. You okay, honey? Fine, I said softly. Just checking email. Go back to sleep. He smiled, kissed my hand, closed his eyes again. I stayed awake for hours after he'd gone to bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about poison and betrayal, and a baby that wasn't my grandchild. Somewhere in this house, Olivia's ultrasound photos sat on our refrigerator held up with magnets shaped like Charleston's rainbow row houses. A baby boy, due in late March. Trevor's excitement had been incandescent. How was I going to tell my son that his wife had been sleeping with his stepfather, that the child he was preparing to welcome wasn't his, that the two people he trusted most in the world had been planning to destroy our family? And how was I going to tell him before they succeeded in killing me? Hunter's office felt smaller than I remembered when I walked in at 10 a.m. the next morning. He had documents spread across his desk like a dealer's hand, and his expression was grimmer than yesterday. Sit down, Linda, he said. Not Mrs. Bennett anymore. We'd moved past formalities. I sat. What did you find? He pulled out the first document, a death certificate, official seal from the South Carolina Department of Vital Records. Lucas Bennett, born March 14, 1985, died July 2, 2019 in a car accident in Greenville, South Carolina. I stared at the certificate. The room felt airless. That can't be right. Your husband is using a dead man's identity. Hunter pulled out more documents. The real Lucas Bennett was an only child. Parents died in a house fire when he was in college. No close relatives. He worked as a graphic designer kept to himself. Perfect target for identity theft, solid paper trail, but no one left to notice he was gone. Then who? My voice came out as a whisper. That's what I'm working on. Hunter showed me driver's license photos side by side. The real Lucas Bennett, blonde, blue-eyed, thin. My Lucas, dark hair, green eyes, broader build. Your husband started using this identity in 2019. New address in Savannah, new bank account, new driver's license with his photo. Met you at that charity auction 6 months later. The charity auction. March 2020. Right after Diane died. I'd been so vulnerable, so lonely. Lucas had been charming, attentive, exactly what I needed. He told me he was new to Charleston, a freelance consultant looking for a fresh start after a bad breakup. All lies. I'm searching for his real identity now, Hunter continued. But Linda, that's not the worst part. There's worse. I couldn't imagine what could be worse than discovering my husband was using a stolen identity. Hunter pulled out another file, thicker than the first. I found a pattern. Similar identity theft case in Austin, Texas, 2011. Woman named Linda Bowman, dead since 2014, was supposedly married to a man named Richard Peaton, real estate developer. Died in 2013 of natural causes. Cardiac arrest, multiple organ failure. The room spun. How did Richard Peaton was 58, wealthy, recently widowed when he met Linda Bowman at a charity function. They married in 2011. By 2012, Richard was sick, headaches, nausea, joint pain, extreme fatigue. Sound familiar? I couldn't speak. Richard died in February 2013. Linda Bowman collected $8 million in life insurance and assets, then disappeared. Richard's sister Amanda contested the will, claimed undue influence. They eventually settled for $5 million, and Linda Bowman vanished. Hunter leaned forward. I tracked down Amanda Peaton. She's been waiting 12 years for someone to believe her, that Linda, or whoever she was, killed her brother. He hit speakerphone on his desk phone. A woman's voice answered immediately, Texas accent thick with exhaustion and old anger. Mr. Blake, Amanda, I have Linda Bennett here with me, the woman I told you about. Can you tell her what you remember about Richard's illness? Mrs. Bennett? Amanda's voice shook. My brother called me 2 weeks before he died. Said he felt like he was dying. I told him to go to the hospital, but Linda convinced him it was just stress. He trusted her. He loved her. A pause. Mrs. Bennett, does your husband give you vitamins? My hands went cold. Yes. Richard took vitamins every morning. Linda insisted. After he died, I had the bottle tested, spent my own money because the police wouldn't listen. It was clean. She'd replaced whatever she'd been giving him. What happened to Richard? I asked, though I already knew. Cardiac arrest, acute organ failure. The doctor said his heart just gave out, that sometimes it happens. But I knew. I knew Linda killed him. Amanda's voice hardened. Mrs. Bennett don't take anything he whoever gives you. Not food, not drinks, nothing. And for God's sake, don't let them cremate you. That's what Linda did to Richard. 48 hours he was gone. No chance for second opinions. Hunter ended the call. The silence in the office was deafening. I'm sending Amanda's testimony and all the documents to a forensic toxicologist I know, Hunter said. But Linda, we need to test your blood now, today. Find out what's in your system before it kills me. I finished the sentence for him. Like it killed Richard Peaton. Like it almost killed Richard Peaton's wife's next victim, Hunter corrected. Because I think the person using Lucas Bennett's identity is the same person who was using Linda Bowman's identity 12 years ago. A serial killer. I'd married a serial killer. The vitamin capsules, I said. I've been collecting them. 7 days worth. Good. We'll test those too. Hunter stood. I have a colleague at a private lab, Dr. Sarah Kim at Comprehensive Diagnostics. We go now. We test everything. And Linda, he waited until I looked at him. You cannot go home until we know what we're dealing with. Do you understand? If Lucas realizes you know, if he thinks you're about to expose him, he'll speed up the timeline. What timeline? Whatever he's been planning. My guess, get you sick enough that your death looks natural. Collect life insurance and your assets. Then disappear with Olivia and the baby. Clean, efficient, untraceable. But they'd made a mistake. They'd let me live long enough to find out the truth. Let's go, I said. And Hunter, after we know what's in my system, I want you to tell me everything you can find about Olivia Martinez. Because if Lucas chose her as his partner, she's done this before too. Dr. Sarah Kim's private laboratory occupied the 3rd floor of a nondescript medical building on Calhoun Street. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the efficient manner of someone who dealt with life-and-death situations daily. Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Blake. She shook our hands and led us into a consultation room. Medical equipment hummed softly in the background. I've completed the preliminary analysis on both the capsule samples and your blood work. We need to talk. I sat down, gripping the arms of the chair. Hunter stood behind me, solid and reassuring. Dr. Kim turned her computer screen toward us. Charts and graphs I couldn't quite interpret filled the display. The capsules contain colchicine. It's an alkaloid substance derived from the autumn crocus plant. In controlled doses 0.6 milligrams, it's used to treat gout and certain inflammatory conditions. But these capsules contain 2.5 milligrams each, more than 4 times the therapeutic dose. What does colchicine do? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. In small controlled amounts, treats inflammation. In larger doses, over time. Dr. Kim's expression was grave. It's extremely toxic. It causes cumulative damage to multiple organ systems. Initial symptoms include nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. As it builds up, you get bone marrow suppression, muscle weakness, kidney failure, cardiac problems. Eventually, multi-organ failure that looks exactly like natural causes: heart attack, stroke, sudden cardiac death. How long? Hunter asked. At the doses she was taking. You've been taking these how long, Mrs. Bennett? 3 months. 1 capsule every morning. I could barely get the words out. Sometimes 2 if Lucas thought I looked extra tired. Dr. Kim typed something into her computer. Your blood work shows colchicine levels at 4.2 nanograms per milliliter. That's in the toxic range. You're experiencing chronic poisoning. She turned to face me directly. Mrs. Bennett, if you'd continued at this rate, I estimate you had maybe 6 to 8 weeks before irreversible organ damage. Another month after that before a catastrophic cardiac event. 6 to 8 weeks. 2 months until I died, and everyone would have said, poor Linda, her heart just gave out. The stress of running that company was too much. Can you treat it? Hunter's hand was on my shoulder, steadying. Yes. You stopped ingestion in time. That was smart, Mrs. Bennett. Your kidneys are stressed but functional. Liver enzymes are elevated but not critical. We start chelation therapy immediately, aggressive hydration organ function monitoring. Dr. Kim leaned forward. You're fortunate. The only reason you're sitting here is because whoever's been doing this miscalculated their timing. The ultrasound. They'd run out of time because Olivia got pregnant. They needed me alive until after the baby was born, until Lucas could claim his heir, and they could execute whatever final phase of their plan involved. How soon can we start treatment? I asked. Today if you want, but Mrs. Bennett, this is attempted murder. Premeditated, documented, ongoing. You need to call the police. Not yet. I looked at Hunter. How long do I have before treatment becomes critical? Hunter understood what I was asking. Linda. How long? Dr. Kim exchanged a glance with Hunter. You should start today, but if you're asking how long you can wait, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Beyond that, you're risking permanent damage even with treatment. 10 days. The Charleston Preservation Society Gala was in 12 days. I'd been planning to attend for months. It was the social event of the season 200 of Charleston's elite in one room. Everyone who mattered would be there, including Lucas, including Olivia, including Trevor, who still had no idea his wife was carrying another man's child. I need 10 days, I said. Linda, no. Hunter moved to stand in front of me. This is insane. We call Detective Walsh right now. We have enough evidence, the colchicine, the background check on Lucas, Amanda Peaton's testimony about Richard. We bring them in today. And then what? I stood up, felt the room tilt, slightly steadied myself. They lawyer up. The case drags through the courts for months, maybe years. Olivia has the baby in prison or out on bail. Trevor's humiliation becomes tabloid fodder. Lucas's defense claims the vitamins were a mistake, that he didn't know that someone else must have tampered with them. Rich defendants with good lawyers walk free all the time, Hunter. You know that. So what are you proposing? His voice was hard. I'm proposing we do this in front of everyone, at the gala, 200 witnesses. No chance to spin the story, no chance to run, no chance to hide behind lawyers before the truth comes out. I looked between Hunter and Dr. Kim. We expose everything, the affair, the identity theft, the murder of Richard Peaton, the poisoning, the embezzlement, all of it in one moment, in one place, where the entire Charleston society can see exactly who they are. Dr. Kim shook her head. Mrs. Bennett, I can't support this medically. You're asking to delay life-saving treatment so you can stage a public confrontation. I'm asking for 10 days. You said I have 10 days. Barely. And every day you wait, the damage gets worse. Then we make those 10 days count. I turned to Hunter. Can you have everything ready by then? All the evidence compiled, presentation prepared. Detective Walsh briefed and ready to make arrests. Hunter was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. Yes. But Linda, if you're going to do this, we need to be smart. We need more than just the colchicine and the identity theft. We need to know exactly who Lucas really is, what Olivia's role has been, how deep this conspiracy goes. Then let's find out, I said. Hunter's office had transformed into a command center over the next 3 days. Whiteboards covered in timelines and connections, stacks of financial records, surveillance photos printed and pinned like a detective's murder board. I sat at Hunter's conference table with Robert Fleming, reviewing everything we'd discovered. My hands still shook occasionally, and I had to keep a trash can nearby for the waves of nausea that hit without warning. But I'd stopped taking the vitamins, started drinking enormous amounts of water to help flush the poison from my system, and most importantly, I'd kept playing the dutiful wife at home. The embezzlement is clear-cut, Robert said, sliding a financial summary across the table. Olivia has diverted $127,000 from Bennett Properties over the last 18 months. She created fake vendor invoices, inflated client entertainment expenses, and approved her own falsified reimbursements. Where did the money go? I asked. Hunter pulled up a bank statement on his laptop. Cayman Islands account. Opened January 2024, registered to Monsieur Torres LLC. He looked at me. I think I know who Lucas really is. He turned the laptop to show me. A faded mugshot from 2009, a face that was familiar, but different. Thinner, longer hair, but those eyes. I knew those eyes. Michelle Torres, born 1985, Shreveport, Louisiana. Arrested for fraud in Baton Rouge, 2009, served 2 years probation. Arrested for identity theft in Houston, 2011, served 18 months. Got out in 2012, then disappeared from the system. Until becoming Linda Bowman and marrying Richard Peaton, I said quietly. Exactly. And after Richard died and Linda Bowman vanished with $5 million, Michelle went dark for 6 years. No arrests, no addresses, no paper trail. Then in 2019, Lucas Bennett's identity gets stolen, and 6 months later, Lucas meets you. I stared at the mugshot. Michelle Torres. Not Lucas. Not a man at all, but a woman who'd been playing a role so perfectly that I'd never questioned it. The slight build I'd thought was just genetics. The fact that we'd never had children, that Lucas always said he'd had a vasectomy years ago. The way Lucas sometimes showered at odd hours, was always careful about privacy in the bathroom. "Oh my God," I whispered. "I know," Hunter said gently. "I'm sorry." "No, I couldn't finish. Couldn't articulate the particular violation of this deception layered on top of all the others. "Olivia knows, doesn't she? About Michelle?" "Has to. They're partners." Hunter pulled up more documents. I tracked Olivia Martinez back to Louisiana, too. She and Michelle were arrested together in 2011 for a check fraud scheme in Baton Rouge. Charges were dropped due to lack of evidence, but they knew each other. They've been working together for years. Robert leaned forward. "So let me make sure I understand the con. Michelle posing as Lucas marries Linda. Olivia posing as a therapist meets and marries Trevor. They get inside the family, inside the company. Michelle slowly poisons Linda while Olivia embezzles money and transfers it to their offshore account. Olivia gets pregnant with Michelle's child to create an heir to the Bennett fortune. Then Linda dies of natural causes. Olivia inherits Trevor's portion of the company, and they probably had plans to eliminate Trevor next so Olivia would get everything." "That's my working theory," Hunter said. "Clean, efficient, practiced. They've done this before with Richard Peaton. Probably others we haven't found yet." I felt sick, but this time it wasn't the culty scene. "Where's Olivia now?" Hunter checked his surveillance log. "Prenatal yoga. Trevor picked her up, dropped her off, went to the office. He has no idea. Linda, we need to tell him." "Not yet." The words came out sharper than I intended. "Not until we have everything. I won't break my son's heart in pieces. He gets the whole truth at once with a plan for how to move forward." "He might not forgive you for waiting," Robert said quietly. "I know, but if I tell him now, he'll confront Olivia. She'll tell Michelle, and they'll run or accelerate their timeline." I looked at both men. 10 more days. We finish the investigation, we compile every piece of evidence, and then we burn their lives down in front of everyone who matters in this city. That night, sitting across from Michelle, I couldn't think of him as Lucas anymore at dinner. I almost broke. We were eating the takeout Indian food he'd picked up, and he was telling me a story about a client meeting, and I was nodding and smiling while thinking about Richard Peaton dying in a hospital bed, about Amanda Peaton spending 12 years knowing her brother was murdered and not being able to prove it. "You're quiet tonight," Michelle said, reaching across to touch my hand. "Feeling okay. Just tired still." I pulled my hand away to reach for my water glass, breaking the contact. "Long day at the office." "You need to take it easier, Lynn. I worry about you." Those green eyes were so sincere, so full of false concern. "Maybe we should see Dr. Mitchell again. Get a second opinion on why you're not bouncing back." "Because you're poisoning me," I thought. "Because every day you pretend to love me while feeding me toxins that are destroying my organs." "Maybe," I said non-committally. My phone buzzed. Text from Trevor, Mom. "Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow morning? Need to talk about something. Just us." My heart clenched. Did he know? Had he figured something out? Everything okay? Michelle was watching me carefully. "Trevor wants to meet for coffee tomorrow. Probably wants to talk about nursery furniture or baby names." I smiled casual. "You know how excited he is." "That's great." Did Michelle's expression tighten slightly, or was I imagining it? "You two have always been close." "He's my son, my only child." I met those lying eyes directly. "I'd do anything to protect him." "Of course you would. That's what makes you such a good mother." Michelle stood, started clearing plates. "Why don't you relax? I'll clean up. You look exhausted." I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and immediately called Hunter. "Trevor wants to meet tomorrow," I said quietly. He texted, "Just us." "Hunter, what if he knows? What if Olivia let something slip? Or what if he just wants to talk about becoming a father?" Hunter's voice was calm. "Don't panic. Meet him, feel him out. If he knows something, we adjust the timeline. But Linda, don't tell him everything unless you have to. Not yet." "Why not?" Because Trevor's a good man, which means he's a terrible liar. If he knows and has to face Olivia at home, she'll see it on his face. And then it's over. He was right. I knew he was right. But keeping this secret from my son felt like swallowing more poison. After I hung up, I went to my jewelry box and carefully counted the vitamin capsules I'd collected. 14 days worth. 14 doses of the poison that was supposed to kill me. Evidence. It was all evidence. Downstairs, I heard Michelle moving around, probably preparing my nighttime supplement, another capsule, this one blue instead of amber that he claimed was for bone health. I'd been faking taking that one too. I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Pale thinner than I'd been 3 months ago, dark circles under my eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. I looked sick, because I was sick. Dying by increments while the person I'd trusted most watched and waited. Not anymore. I squared my shoulders, practiced my smile. 10 more days of pretending. 10 more days of living with a murderer. 10 more days of watching my daughter-in-law carry a child conceived in betrayal. Then I'd take it all back. My health, my company, my son's future, my dignity. 10 more days. I could survive anything for 10 more days. I met Trevor at Common Ground Coffee, a small place on King Street that we'd been coming to together since he was in college. It was neutral ground public, but quiet enough for private conversation. Trevor was already there when I arrived, sitting in our usual corner booth, 2 lattes on the table, mine, with extra foam the way I liked it. "Hey, Mom!" He stood to hug me, and I held on just a fraction too long, breathing in the scent of his cologne that was the same brand his father had worn. My boy. My precious son who was about to have his world shattered. "Hey, sweetie." I sat down, wrapped my hands around the warm cup. "What did you want to talk about?" Trevor looked uncomfortable. He kept glancing at his coffee, then at me, then away. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." My heart started pounding. "Of course. Always." "Are you sick?" "Like really sick." The words came out in a rush. "Because you've lost weight. You're always tired. You look, I don't know, fragile in a way you've never looked before. And Dr. Mitchell keeps saying it's stress, but Mom, you've handled stress your whole life. This is different." Relief and heartbreak warred in my chest. He didn't know about Olivia and Michelle. He was just worried about his mother. "I've been having some health issues," I said carefully. "But I'm handling it. Seeing specialists, getting tests done." "What kind of health issues, Trevor?" "Mom, please." His voice cracked slightly. "I already lost Dad. I can't lose you too. Not now. Not when—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Not when I'm about to be a father. I need you to meet your grandchild. I need you to be okay." The grandchild that wasn't his. Oh God, how was I going to tell him, "I promise you I'm going to be fine"? I reached across the table, took his hand. "I have good doctors, good people helping me. And Trevor, I promise you'll be there when the baby is born." I'd almost said when Olivia's baby is born. Had to catch myself. Trevor squeezed my hand. "Is it cancer? Is that what this is? Because if it is, we'll fight it together. Whatever you need, treatment, experimental therapies, whatever it costs. It's not cancer. At least that was true. Trevor, I need you to trust me. In about a week and a half, everything is going to make sense. But right now, I need you to keep going to work. Keep living your life normally. Keep taking care of Olivia." "That's a weird thing to say, Mom." "I know. But will you do it for me?" He studied my face for a long moment. Trevor had always been perceptive. He got that from Diane. "You're keeping something from me." "I'm protecting you," I said. "There's a difference." "From what?" "From information that would hurt you before I have the power to fix things." I squeezed his hand harder. "Trevor, do you trust me?" "Of course I do. You're my mother." "Then trust me now. 10 more days. At the Preservation Gala, everything will become clear. I promise." "The gala, Mom? What does a charity fundraiser have to do with the 10 days? I repeated. "Can you give me that?" Trevor looked like he wanted to argue, but finally he nodded. 10 days. But Mom, if you're in trouble, if you need help, I have help. Good help. I thought of Hunter, of Robert, of Dr. Kim monitoring my blood work daily. And soon I'll have justice too. We finished our coffee talking about safer things, the Mount Pleasant development ideas for the nursery, whether Trevor should take paternity leave or work from home the first few weeks. Normal conversation that felt like glass fragile and sharp-edged, ready to shatter. When we hugged goodbye on the sidewalk, Trevor held on tight. I love you, Mom. Whatever's going on, we'll get through it. I love you too, baby. I used the childhood nickname deliberately. More than you'll ever know. I watched him walk back to his car, this man who used to be my little boy, who was about to learn that the woman he loved and the life he'd built were both lies. 10 more days. Then I'd give him the truth and hope he'd forgive me for the wait. Hunter called that afternoon while I was at the office pretending to review contracts while actually researching chelation therapy protocols. Linda, you need to come see this. Now. 20 minutes later, I was back in his office looking at surveillance photos spread across his desk. Recent ones' timestamps showed they were from yesterday and today. Michelle and Olivia met at the Mount Pleasant site this morning, Hunter said. 9:30 a.m. while Trevor was in his zoning meeting downtown. The photos showed them in the empty lot standing close. Too close. Michelle's hands on Olivia's pregnant belly. Olivia's head on Michelle's shoulder. The intimacy of it was undeniable. These weren't co-conspirators having a business meeting. These were lovers who knew each other's bodies, who'd created a child together, who were planning a future built on my grave. There's more. Hunter handed me his phone. I got audio, too. Parabolic mic perfectly legal since they were in public. Listen. He pressed play. Michelle's voice came through clearly. Only 2 more weeks. Dr. E. Kim said Linda's levels are exactly where we need them. After the baby comes, we accelerate the final dose. She'll have a cardiac event within days, completely natural looking. Olivia's voice. What about Trevor? He's been asking questions, Says his mother looks sick. Trevor's not a problem. Once Linda's gone, we give it 6 months. Then Trevor has his accident. You play the grieving widow, inherit everything, and we disappear to the Caymans with the money and our son. Our son. Michelle had said our son. What if something goes wrong? Olivia sounded nervous. What if someone figures it out like that sister did with Richard? Amanda Peaton was a paranoid bitch with no evidence. We were smarter with Richard than we're being with Linda. No one suspects a thing. Michelle's voice was confident, assured. In 3 months, we'll be on a beach somewhere with $8 million our baby, and no one will ever connect Michelle Torres to Lucas Bennett or Linda Bowman. We're ghosts, Liv. We're always ghosts. The audio ended. I sat down heavily in Hunter's chair. That's premeditation, Hunter said. Clear conspiracy to commit murder. Not just Linda, they're planning to kill Trevor, too. This is everything we need for the police right now, Linda. We don't need to wait. Yes, we do. My voice was steady despite the horror of hearing my own death planned so casually. Because they said 2 more weeks, which means they think they still have time, which means I do too. Linda, Hunter, listen to me. If we bring them in now on attempted murder charges, they'll claim the audio is fabricated or taken out of context. Their lawyers will fight the identity theft charges, claim Michelle has gender dysphoria, and legally change names that the background check is discriminatory. They'll tie this up in court for years. I stood up, feeling strength I didn't know I still had. But if we expose them publicly first, with all the evidence, with Amanda Peaton's testimony, with the DNA proof about the baby, with 200 witnesses watching them try to explain themselves, then there's no spinning it, no controlling the narrative. Charleston society will crucify them before they ever set foot in a courtroom. You want revenge, Hunter said. I get it, but is it worth dying for? I'm not going to die. I met his eyes. I'm going to start chelation therapy tomorrow. Dr. Kim said she can do it discreetly. I'll tell Michelle I'm going to the spa or visiting a friend. 3 sessions over the next 10 days will bring my colchicine levels down enough to be safe. I picked up one of the surveillance photos, Michelle's hand on Olivia's pregnant belly, the intimacy of monsters planning murder. And then at the gala, I'm going to destroy them. Hunter was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, but we do this my way. I control the presentation, I coordinate with Detective Walsh, and the second I think you're in danger, we pull the plug and call in the cavalry. Deal. Deal. That night, Michelle made me dinner, pasta primavera, my favorite. I watched from the doorway as those hands that had touched Olivia so intimately that morning now chopped vegetables with domestic efficiency. Smells good, I said, my voice only slightly strained. Only the best for my wife. Michelle turned, smiled. And I made sure to add extra garlic and basil the way you like. You need to keep your strength up. Keep my strength up so the poison works more slowly, I thought. We ate at the kitchen island. Michelle poured wine just half a glass for me, claiming to be concerned about alcohol interacting with my stress symptoms. I pretended to drink it, actually spilling most of it into the plant next to my stool when Michelle went to get dessert. "So, Trevor told me you two met for coffee this morning," Michelle said, bringing out tiramisu from the Italian bakery downtown. "What did you talk about?" "The baby, nursery plans. Trevor's nervous about being a good father." All true as far as it went. "He's worried about me being sick too." "You told him it's just stress, right?" Michelle's voice was casual, but those eyes were sharp, assessing. "Of course. What else would it be?" I met that gaze steadily. "Though I am feeling better lately. Maybe the vitamins are finally working." "Good. That's good." Did Michelle look slightly disappointed? "You should keep taking them consistently. Sometimes supplements take months to show full effect." Months I didn't have in their original timeline. "I will," I lied. After dinner, Michelle went to shower, that nightly ritual that I now understood in a completely different context. While the water ran, I checked Michelle's phone. The passcode had been my birthday, but 3 days ago I'd watched Michelle change it to something else. I tried the new code 0328, March 28th, Olivia's due date. The phone unlocked. Quickly I scrolled through messages. Most were innocuous work stuff, contractor updates, messages to Trevor about the Mount Pleasant project. But then I found a thread with no contact name, just a phone number with a Louisiana area code. The most recent message from this morning: "M-baby's doing great. Linda's levels are perfect. 2 more weeks and this is over. Unknown good. I'm ready for my cut. Richard's sister never let that shit go. Make sure there's no loose ends this time. M, no loose ends. Promise. Linda's too trusting. Trevor's too devoted. This is cleaner than Richard ever was." Unknown. What about the ultrasound slip-up? Doctor figured out paternity. M handled. Doctor thinks Linda got a private test, confirmed Trevor's the father. He won't say anything. Patient confidentiality and all that. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. There was someone else. Another partner, someone who'd helped with Richard Peaton and was waiting for their cut of my money. I took photos of the text thread with my own phone, careful not to leave any trace I'd been in Michelle's messages. Put the phone back exactly where it had been. Then I went to the bathroom and was violently sick, flushing the toilet multiple times to cover the sound while Michelle's shower ran 10 feet away. When Michelle came out, towel wrapped around a body, I thought I knew I was in bed, pretending to read a magazine. "You okay?" Michelle asked. "You look pale." "Just tired. I might go to the spa tomorrow, get a massage. Try to relax like Dr. Mitchell said." "Good idea. You should take care of yourself." Michelle climbed into bed beside me, kissed my forehead. "I love you, Lynn. I just want you to be healthy and happy. I love you." The words echoed in the darkness after Michelle fell asleep. Did Michelle even understand what love meant? Or was it just another word in the con artist's vocabulary deployed strategically to manipulate and control? I lay awake for hours thinking about Richard Peaton, about the unknown partner in Louisiana, about Trevor sleeping peacefully across town next to a woman who was planning to make him a widower, then murder him for inheritance money. 8 more days until the gala. 8 more days of pretending, of smiling, of letting a serial killer sleep beside me. I could survive anything for 8 more days. I had to. Hunter's office had become command central for what we were now calling Operation Preservation, a grim joke about the Preservation Society gala that would preserve my life while destroying theirs. Robert Fleming was there, along with a woman I hadn't met before, Detective Sarah Walsh, Charleston PD. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed, with the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen too much human ugliness to be shocked by anything. "Mrs. Bennett." She shook my hand firmly. "Hunter and Mr. Fleming have briefed me. I've reviewed all the evidence, the surveillance, the audio, the toxicology reports, the background on Michelle Torres and Olivia Martinez, Amanda Piton's testimony about Richard Peaton. This is the most comprehensive attempted murder case I've seen in 20 years. So you believe me?" I needed to hear her say it. "I believe you, and I believe you're in danger." Detective Walsh sat down, opened a case file. "What I don't believe is that conducting a public exposure at a society gala is the smartest move. Mrs. Bennett, we can arrest them today. Attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, identity theft. We have enough for convictions." "She's right, Linda," Robert said gently. "I understand you want justice, but you're playing a dangerous game. It's not about justice. It's about protection." I'd been thinking about this for days, had my argument prepared. If we arrest them quietly, they become a news story. Charleston real estate heir and husband arrested. The focus becomes their criminality. But Trevor still has to live in this city, run Bennett Properties, face clients and colleagues who'll whisper about his failed marriage and his stepfather, the murderer. I leaned forward. But if we expose them at the gala in front of everyone who matters in Charleston society, with all the evidence laid out for the city's elite to see, then Trevor becomes the victim. The betrayed son whose wife and stepfather conspired against his family. He gets sympathy, not gossip. And Michelle and Olivia get pariah status before they ever reach a courtroom. No jury in Charleston will side with them after that public humiliation. Detective Walsh studied me for a long moment. You've thought this through. I've thought about nothing else. All right. She pulled out a notepad. Then we do this smart. I'll have 6 officers stationed at the Hibernian Hall, 2 at entrances, 2 backstage, 2 in unmarked cars outside. The moment you give the signal, we move in with arrest warrants. Hunter controls the AV system. No one else touches those files. And Mrs. Bennett, you wear a wire. Every word Michelle or Olivia says to you that night gets recorded. Agreed, he said. One more thing. Detective Walsh's expression was serious. If at any point I think you're in physical danger, if Michelle or Olivia try to leave or become violent, we don't wait for your signal. We execute the arrest immediately. Your public exposure plan doesn't matter if you're dead. Understood. Hunter had been working on his laptop while we talked. Now he turned it around to show us. I've compiled everything into a presentation. 120 slides. Photos, documents, audio clips, medical records, timeline maps. It's devastating. I looked at the screen. Slide 1 showed a photo from my wedding to Michelle 5 years ago. Both of us smiling happy, me in my cream-colored suit, Michelle in a tailored tuxedo. The image of a second chance at love. Slide 2 showed Michelle Torres' 2009 mugshot. Perfect, I said. Dr. Kim's clinic had a private room in the back where she administered my chelation therapy. 3 sessions over 6 days, intravenous treatments that pulled the colchicine from my system, slowly, carefully giving my organs time to heal. Your kidney function is improving, she said during the 3rd session, reviewing my latest blood work. Liver enzymes coming down. You're responding well. Another week of hydration and rest, and you should be stable enough that even if, God forbid, you were exposed to more colchicine, your body could handle it better. But I'm not out of the woods yet. No, you still have elevated toxin levels, but you're improving. The fact that you stopped taking the capsules when you did probably saved your life. Dr. Kim adjusted the IV drip. Mrs. Bennett, I have to ask, are you sure about this gala plan? The stress alone could be dangerous in your condition. I'm sure. I watched the clear fluid drip into my arm, pulling poison out, giving me life back. Dr. Kim, how many people do you think Michelle Torres has killed? She was quiet for a moment. Based on the pattern and sophistication, at least 3. Probably more we don't know about. Then stopping Michelle isn't just about me. It's about everyone who might be next. At home, I told Michelle I'd been going to a spa, facials, massages, taking care of myself, like everyone kept telling me to. Michelle seemed pleased, even encouraged me to book more appointments. You deserve to be pampered, Michelle said, kissing my cheek. You work so hard. The irony was almost funny. Michelle encouraging me to pursue the very treatments that were undoing the slow murder Michelle had been committing. I'm feeling better, I said truthfully, more energetic. I can see that. You have color in your face again. Was that disappointment in Michelle's eyes? Though you should still take your vitamins. Consistency is important. I'd been flushing them down the toilet for over a week now. Let Michelle believe I was taking them. Let Michelle think the timeline was still on track. Surprise was going to be my greatest weapon at the gala. 5 days before the gala, Hunter handed me a small recording device no bigger than a button. This is your wire. Medical-grade adhesive, waterproof, voice-activated. Put it inside your dress right here. He indicated a spot below my collarbone, and it'll pick up everything within 15 feet with perfect clarity. I took the device, felt its weight. So small, but it would capture the final evidence we needed, Michelle and Olivia's reactions when they realized they'd been caught. There's something else you should know, Hunter said. I found the 3rd partner, the unknown number in Michelle's phone from Louisiana. He showed me a photo. A woman maybe 50, hard-looking with calculating eyes. Diane Torres, Michelle's mother. Former nurse lost her license in 2007 for stealing prescription drugs. She's the one who probably taught Michelle about colchicine. It's used in medical settings. She'd have known its properties. Hunter pulled up a rap sheet. Diane was investigated but never charged in 2 suspicious deaths in Louisiana nursing homes. Elderly patients who died of natural causes and left their estates to her. A family business, I said quietly. Looks like it. Diane is expecting 30% of whatever Michelle gets from your estate. I've already shared this with Detective Walsh. There are Louisiana State Police ready to pick her up the moment we move on Michelle. So that was the full picture. Michelle Torres, Olivia Martinez, and Diane Torres. A family of predators who'd been operating for years, leaving bodies in their wake. Not anymore. 4 days before the gala, I met with Trevor one more time. We sat in my office at Bennett Properties, after hours, the city lights of Charleston twinkling through the windows. Mom, you said everything would make sense at the gala. Trevor looked exhausted, worried. Can you at least tell me if you're going to be okay? I need to know you're going to be okay. I'm going to be fine, sweetheart. Better than fine. I took his hands. But Trevor, that night is going to be difficult. Some things are going to come out, some truths that will hurt. And I need you to promise me something. When it happens, when you hear things that seem impossible, I need you to trust that I wouldn't do this unless it was absolutely necessary. And I need you to know that no matter what, I love you. You're my son, my greatest achievement, and nothing that happens will ever change that. Trevor's eyes filled with tears. Mom, you're scaring me. I'm sorry. I pulled him into a hug. Just remember, at the end of that night, we'll still have each other. That's what matters. Family. Real family, not the kind built on lies. When he left, I stood at my office window looking out over the city I'd helped build, the real estate empire Diane and I had created from nothing. This company had my name on it, my sweat and tears and decades of work. Michelle Torres thought she could take it. Thought she could poison me, steal from me, destroy my family, and walk away with millions. 3 more days. In 3 more days, I'd show Michelle what happened when you underestimated a woman who'd built an empire. In 3 more days, the whole city would know the truth. 3 more days until the reckoning. The Hibernian Hall glowed like a jewel box on the night of the Charleston Preservation Society Gala. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across the historic ballroom, illuminating 200 of Charleston's most influential citizens in their finest evening wear. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Everything was elegant, civilized, perfect. I stood in the ladies' room checking my reflection one final time. The navy Armani gown I'd chosen was simple, but elegant, appropriate for a woman my age and station. My hair was swept up in a classic chignon. Diamond earrings, Diane's the ones he'd given me for our 20th anniversary, caught the light. But under the bodice of my dress, pressed against my skin, was Hunter's recording device. And in my clutch was a small remote that would signal Detective Walsh and her team. My hands were steady. After 3 chelation treatments, I felt stronger than I had in months. The colchicine levels in my blood were down to manageable ranges. I could do this. You look beautiful, Mrs. Bennett, a woman at the sink said, Mrs. Constance Sheffield Grandedame of Charleston Society. We're all so glad you're feeling better. There were rumors you'd been quite ill. Just stress, Constance. But I'm much improved now. I smiled at her reflection. Tonight should be very memorable. If she only knew. I walked back into the ballroom. Trevor was near the bar with Olivia, her pregnancy now visible at 16 weeks, in her empire waist emerald gown. She had her hand on her belly, Michelle's baby, while chatting with the mayor's wife. Trevor saw me and waved. I went to them. Don't you two look wonderful? Mom, Trevor hugged me carefully. You sure you're up for your speech tonight? You don't have to if you're not feeling well. I'm feeling better than I have in months, sweetheart. I kissed his cheek, then turned to Olivia. How are you feeling, dear, the baby? Active tonight. Olivia's smile was perfect, practiced. I think he knows it's a special evening. He. She'd said he. Already thinking of the baby as Michelle's son, not Trevor's. Where's Lucas? I asked, using the name deliberately. Right here. Michelle appeared at my elbow, devastating in a tailored black tuxedo, every inch the distinguished husband. You look stunning, Lynn. Thank you. I accepted the kiss on my cheek, felt my skin crawl. Big night. For the Preservation Society, absolutely. Michelle's arm went around my waist, possessive. And for us. I'm proud to be here with you. Across the room, I caught Hunter's eye. He was dressed as a waiter, part of the catering staff invisible to the society guests. He gave me the smallest nod. Everything was ready. Detective Walsh was in the kitchen, also in catering uniform. 4 other officers were positioned at strategic points. The AV system was primed with Hunter's presentation. At 9 o'clock, the society president tapped her glass. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you could take your seats, we'll begin our program. Tonight, we're honored to have Mrs. Linda Bennett, one of Charleston's most generous benefactors, share some words about preservation, what it means to protect what matters most." Applause rippled through the room. I walked to the podium at the front, felt 200 pairs of eyes on me. Trevor sat at table 5 with Olivia. Michelle was at the head table 3 rows back, smiling encouragingly. I gripped the podium edges. This was it. "Good evening," I began. "Thank you all for being here. Tonight I want to talk about preservation, but not the kind you're expecting. When we talk about preservation, we usually mean buildings, historic homes, landmarks, pieces of Charleston's architectural heritage. But what about preserving truth? Preserving justice? Preserving family from those who would destroy it?" I could feel the room's attention sharpen. This wasn't the standard fundraising speech. 5 years ago, I remarried. My husband Lucas seemed like a gift after losing my first husband Diane to cancer. Lucas was charming, attentive, exactly what I needed. I paused. But Lucas Bennett isn't real. Gasps. Michelle's face went pale. "Hunter, first slide, please." The screens on either side of the podium lit up. Side by side, my wedding photo and Michelle Torres's 2009 mugshot. My husband's real name is Michelle Torres, born 1985, Shreveport, Louisiana, convicted of fraud and identity theft. Michelle stole the identity of a deceased man, the real Lucas Bennett, who died in 2019, and used it to marry me. The room erupted in whispers. Michelle stood up. "This is insane. Linda, what are you—" "Sit down, Michelle." My voice was steel. "I'm not finished." Detective Walsh moved to block the exit. Michelle sat trapped. Next slides. Photos of Michelle and Olivia at the Wentworth Mansion, at the Mount Pleasant site. Michelle's hands on Olivia's pregnant belly. Timestamps, dates, hotel receipts. My daughter-in-law, Olivia, and my husband have been having an affair for over a year. The child Olivia is carrying isn't Trevor's. DNA testing confirms Michelle Torres is the biological father. Conception date November 14th while I was in Colombia, and Trevor was told Olivia was in Atlanta. Trevor made a sound like a wounded animal. Olivia grabbed his arm. "Trevor, I can explain." "There's no explanation." I looked at my son, saw his world shattering. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you need to hear all of it." More slides. Bank statements showing the embezzlement. The Cayman Islands account. Forged invoices and fake client expenses. Olivia Martinez has embezzled $127,000 from Bennett Properties. The money was transferred to an offshore account owned by Michelle Torres. Phones were out now recording. The mayor looked shocked. Mrs. Sheffield had her hand over her mouth. But it gets worse. Deep breath. Next slides. My medical records. The colchicine test results. Photos of the vitamin bottles. For 3 months, Michelle has been poisoning me with colchicine, a toxic substance that causes slow organ failure designed to look like natural causes. I was 6 weeks away from a fatal cardiac event that everyone would have attributed to stress. The room went dead silent. This isn't Michelle's first time. Next slides. Death certificate for Richard Peaton. Photos of Linda Bowman that were clearly Michelle. Amanda Peaton's testimony transcript. In 2013, Michelle, using the identity Linda Bowman, married Richard Peaton in Austin, Texas. Richard died of the exact same symptoms I've been experiencing. Cardiac arrest, organ failure. Michelle collected $8 million and disappeared. I looked directly at Michelle, whose face was now white with rage and fear. "How many others, Michelle? How many people have you killed?" Michelle lunged toward the exit. 2 officers moved in immediately. "Michelle Torres, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and identity theft." Detective Walsh's voice rang out clear as she snapped handcuffs on Michelle's wrists. Olivia tried to run. Another officer caught her at the side door. "Olivia Martinez, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and fraud." The ballroom was chaos. People standing, shouting, filming. Trevor sat frozen, staring at Olivia as she screamed, "I'm pregnant, you can't do this." "Trevor, tell them." Trevor looked at her with such profound betrayal that I had to look away. "The baby isn't mine, is it?" His voice was barely audible. "Tell me the truth, Olivia. For once in your life, tell me the truth." Olivia's face crumpled. "Trevor, Answer me." "No." She was crying now, mascara running. "The baby is Michelle's. But Trevor, I did love you. I do love You don't know what love means." Trevor stood, walked away from her without looking back. I stepped down from the podium. The officers were leading Michelle and Olivia out in handcuffs. Michelle turned to look at me one last time. "You should be dead," Michelle hissed. "You were supposed to be dead." "But I'm not." I held that furious gaze. "And now everyone knows exactly what you are." As they were taken out, the room burst into applause. People rushed toward me, Mrs. Sheffield, the mayor, dozens of others wanting to express shock and support. But I only had eyes for Trevor. He stood alone near the bar, arms wrapped around himself, looking lost. I went to him. "Sweetheart, you knew." His voice was flat. "You knew all of this, and you didn't tell me." I had to have proof first. I've been sleeping next to her mom, eating dinner with her, planning a nursery for a baby that isn't mine while she was planning to murder you. Tears streamed down his face. How could I not have seen it? Because they're professionals, Trevor. This is what they do. I reached for him. "This isn't your fault." He let me hold him while he cried. My strong, capable son reduced to grief in the middle of a ballroom full of Charleston society. But at least he was alive. At least we both were. That was what mattered. The Charleston County Courthouse was packed for the sentencing hearing. Michelle Torres's trial had taken 4 months. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including Amanda Peaton's testimony about Richard, my medical records, the surveillance footage, the recorded conversations. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Now in February, Judge Catherine Morrison sat behind her bench with a stack of sentencing documents. "Michelle Torres, you stand convicted of attempted murder conspiracy to commit murder in the case of Richard Peaton fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. This court has reviewed the extensive evidence of your crimes spanning over a decade." Michelle stood in orange prison scrubs, hair cut short, now no more pretense of being Lucas. Michelle's mother, Diane, had already been sentenced in Louisiana 25 years for her role in the nursing home deaths and conspiracy in Richard's murder. The calculated nature of your crimes, the multiple victims, and the complete lack of remorse warrant the maximum penalty. Judge Morrison's voice was firm. "I hereby sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole in South Carolina. Additionally, you will be transferred to Texas to face murder charges in Richard Peaton's death, which carries the possibility of capital punishment." Life without parole. Michelle would die in prison. I sat in the gallery next to Trevor, and Robert Fleming felt nothing but relief. Olivia's sentencing was next. She'd taken a plea deal, 18 years eligible for parole after 12 in exchange for testifying against Michelle. "Ms. Martinez," Judge Morrison said, "your cooperation with authorities is noted. However, you participated in a conspiracy to murder 2 people and showed willingness to let your husband's mother die for financial gain. You will serve your sentence at the South Carolina Women's Correctional Facility." Olivia, also in prison scrubs, pregnant belly visible at 7 months, turned to look at Trevor one last time. "I'm sorry," she mouthed. Trevor looked away. The baby, Michelle's baby, would be born in prison in March. Social services would take custody immediately. Amanda Peaton had already filed for adoption, wanting to give the child a chance at a normal life away from his biological parents' crimes. "Richard would have wanted this," Amanda told me after the hearing. "Every child deserves love, regardless of where they come from." I'd agreed to set up a trust fund for the child, Richard Bennett Torres. Amanda had decided to name him, connecting him to both victims. Blood money turned into something good. Trevor and I stood on the deck of my historic district home, looking out over the Charleston harbor. It was a clear February afternoon, crisp and bright. "How are you really doing, Mom?" Trevor asked. He looked older than his 32 years, now lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. "I'm okay." It was true. The chelation therapy had worked. My colchicine levels were undetectable. My organs had healed. I'd even started taking yoga classes. "Dr. Kim says I'm healthy as someone 15 years younger. Apparently surviving attempted murder is very motivating for self-care." Trevor smiled slightly. "And the nightmares?" "Less frequent. The therapist says that's normal. PTSD takes time. I'd been seeing Dr. Rachel Morrison twice a week since the gala. What about you? I'm getting there, he sighed. I signed the divorce papers yesterday. Olivia didn't contest. It's officially over. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Don't be. You saved my life, Mom. If you hadn't figured it out, I'd be dead within a year. Olivia and Michelle would have made sure of it once they had full control of the company. He squeezed my hand. You're the bravest person I know. We were quiet for a moment, watching sailboats on the water. I'm dating someone, Trevor said suddenly. Her name is Emily. She's an architect, 34, divorced, no kids. We met at a building conference last month. Trevor, that's wonderful, I smiled. Bring her to Sunday dinner. I'd love to meet her. I will. But Mom, I'm taking it really slow. Trust is hard right now. I understand. I thought about my own trust issues, how I still slept with a baseball bat next to my bed, still double-checked every door lock, still had Hunter do background checks on anyone new who entered my life. Take all the time you need. Bennett Properties was thriving. After the scandal, we'd actually gained clients. People respected how I'd exposed the corruption and protected the company. Trevor had been promoted to CEO when I stepped back to focus on my health. And I'd established the Diane Bennett Foundation for Elder Protection and Domestic Safety, focusing on training medical professionals to recognize signs of coercive control and financial abuse. We'd already helped 3 other victims of similar schemes. My phone buzzed. Text from Hunter Coffey tomorrow. Have someone I want you to meet. I smiled. Hunter had become a good friend over the past months. I typed back, sure, common ground at 10. Everything okay? Trevor asked. Everything's good. I looked at my son, my brave, resilient son who'd survived betrayal and was learning to trust again. Everything's going to be just fine. I stood in the nursery of Trevor's new house, watching him assemble a crib while Emily, now his fiancée of 6 months, directed operations from the rocking chair, her hand on her 6-month pregnant belly. No, honey, that piece goes there, Emily said, laughing. I'm an engineer, Em. I know how to read instructions. But Trevor was smiling as he said it. This baby would be my real grandchild, a fresh start built on honesty and love instead of lies and manipulation. Linda, thank you again for the crib, Emily said. It's beautiful. My pleasure. I'd bought them everything: crib-changing table, a full nursery's worth of furniture in soft yellows and greens. A grandmother's privilege. My phone rang. Amanda Peaton calling from Dallas. Amanda, how are you? Linda, I wanted you to hear it first. Michelle Torres was sentenced to death in Texas today. The judge cited the premeditated nature of Richard's murder and the pattern of violence. Execution date is set for 2029. I sat down in the nursing glider. 2 years. In 2 years, Michelle Torres would die for killing Richard Peaton, for attempting to kill me, for all the others we'd never even discovered. How do you feel? I asked Amanda. Like I can finally breathe. 12 years, Linda. 12 years of knowing my brother was murdered and not being able to prove it. And now justice. Her voice broke. Thank you. For believing me, for fighting, for stopping Michelle before another family went through what we did. After we hung up, I sat quietly processing. Michelle would die. Olivia would spend at least the next decade in prison. Their son Richard, now 18 months old, was thriving with Amanda, who sent me photos monthly. A happy toddler who knew nothing of his parents' crimes. Mom, Trevor touched my shoulder. You okay? I am. I looked up at him, at Emily, at the nursery they were building for a child conceived in love. I really am. That night I had dinner with David, the history professor Hunter had introduced me to a year ago. We'd been dating slowly, carefully. David knew everything that had happened, had read every news article, had held me through panic attacks and nightmares. You seem lighter today, David said over wine at Peninsula Grill. Michelle's execution date was set, in Texas. I swirled my Chardonnay. I'd learned to trust wine again, learned to trust food again, learned to trust that not everyone wanted to hurt me. It's really over. How does that feel? Like closure. I reached across the table, took his hand. Like I can finally move forward instead of just surviving. David squeezed my fingers. I'm glad. You deserve peace, Linda. You deserve happiness. After everything, the betrayal, the poison, the public scandal, the months of testimony and fear, did I deserve to be happy? Yes, I decided. I'd survived. I'd fought back. I'd protected my son and countless future victims. I'd turned my pain into purpose with the foundation. I deserved to live, not just survive. 3 years after meeting Michelle Torres at that charity auction, 2 years after the gala that exposed everything, I was finally truly free. "I love you," I told David. First time I'd said those words since discovering the truth about Michelle. David's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, Linda." We ordered dessert, made plans for a weekend trip to Savannah, talked about maybe moving in together after Trevor's baby was born and things settled down. Normal conversation, normal life, normal love that didn't come with poison and lies. As I left the restaurant that night, walking through Charleston's historic streets under Spanish moss and streetlights, I thought about all the women who wouldn't survive what I'd survived. All the victims of cons and domestic violence and slow murders disguised as natural causes. That's why the foundation existed. That's why I told my story to every journalist who asked, every documentary crew, every law enforcement training program. Because the Linda Bennett who'd blindly swallowed those vitamins 3 years ago, who'd trusted without verifying, who'd nearly died in her own bed, that woman had transformed into someone stronger. Someone who'd looked death in the face and refused to go quietly. Someone who'd fought back and won. I was 57 years old. My son was about to make me a grandmother. My company was thriving. I had a man who loved me, friends who supported me, and a purpose that mattered. Michelle Torres had tried to bury me. Instead, I'd buried Michelle. And I was still here, still standing, still fighting, still living. That was the greatest victory of all.